1949. In newly independent India, Valapad, a small, backward, coastal fishing village like any other in the Malabar district of the erstwhile Madras Presidency. People in this coastal strip, called Manappuram, depended on fishing and subsistence agriculture. Cut off from the mainland by the Connolly Canal, life was a struggle. V.C. Padmanabhan, a son of the soil, had come back home from the island of Ceylon, where he had gone in search of his fortunes. He sets up his own small business, and thus was born Manappuram Financial Trust.
Manappuram Financial Trust was formed for providing financial and other assistance for the needy.
Those days there were only a few banks around. The enterprising V.C. Padmanabhan foresaw the need to cater to ordinary people who needed money for small purposes and did not have the capacity to approach banks.
The banks were not giving the required amount for their purpose, even if they pledged all ornaments they possess. In fact, it was a great service to the ordinary people of this coastal area.
Manappuram Financial Trust got into money lending and pawnbroking on a modest scale. Over the years, V.C. Padmanabhan earned a reputation for integrity.
Vishwasita. Padmanabhante Vishwasita. അതാണ് എനിക്ക് എടുത്തു പറയാനുള്ളത്. ഞങ്ങളെയൊക്കെ ഇത്തരത്തിലേക്ക് ആകർഷിക്കാനും വളരെ കൃത്യതയോടുകൂടി അതിൻ്റെ വട്ടമെത്തിയ തുക ഞങ്ങൾക്ക് തിരിച്ചു തരാനും അദ്ദേഹം കാണിച്ചിട്ടുള്ള ഔത്സുക്യം.
പൽവാച്ചേട്ടൻ്റെ അവിടെ ഡെപ്പോസിറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ടുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചെന്ന് ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ തന്നെ ആ കാശ് കിട്ടും എന്ന് ജനങ്ങൾക്ക് നല്ല ഉറപ്പാണ്. കാരണം അത്രയും സത്യസന്ധമായിട്ടും സുതാര്യമായിട്ടും കാര്യങ്ങൾ നടത്തിക്കൊണ്ടിരുന്നത്.
And Manappuram became a trusted name known for its fair dealings with borrowers.
പണ്ടം വെച്ച ലീസ്റ്റ് പോയാലും അത് തപ്പി തെരഞ്ഞെടുത്ത് എത്ര കൊല്ലങ്ങൾ കഴിഞ്ഞാലും ആ സ്വർണ്ണം നമുക്ക് തിരിച്ചു തരാനുള്ള ഒരു മനസ്സുള്ള മനുഷ്യനായിരുന്നു പത്മനാഭേട്ടൻ.
It became known as a safe haven for the deposits of the local people, offering higher returns with the highest safety.
Moreover, Manappuram Financial Trust was the financial backbone to the below average people, especially fishermen living in the coastal belt.
The corporate office of Manappuram Finance Limited, one of India's leading NBFCs today. More than 3,500 branches across 27 states and union territories. Over 20,000 people work in the many companies within the Manappuram Group, with interests in areas like gold loans, home and vehicle loans, asset finance, jewelry, healthcare, information technology, and insurance broking. The one person singularly responsible for shaping Manappuram into what it is today is V.P. Nandakumar, son of V.C. Padmanabhan, who took over in 1986 after his father passed away. It is true that most big business houses have had humble beginnings, but the Manappuram story has something more to it.
The credibility he has earned over the few decades, which was very helpful for me in building the organization to the next level. So the strong foundation is the faith and credibility he has established amongst the masses is the biggest capital which even today I hold as the major point of success for as far as Manappuram is concerned.
When V.C. Padmanabhan breathed his last in 1986, nearly 40 years after he started it, Manappuram was still a modest 200 square feet office present only at Valapad.
He didn't want to grow the business, he just wants to keep it small, just one branch. So that was about him, and those days about the business, if you want to talk about it, is, you know, it was a deposit taking company, still a gold loan company by taking deposits. So you need to secure the trust of people. So the credibility was there. He has established the credibility. So that's something amazing.
At those days, my grandfather, actually he had a self-imposed cap of about 25 lakhs, beyond which he wouldn't accept any deposits. So what he does is, when somebody withdrew money, he would send a letter in an inland letter to ask the person on the first waiting list to come and deposit his money.
And such was the formidable reputation of the firm that even as it remained rooted in Valapad, deposits came in from here and beyond, from locals who had moved out of the area to other parts of India and abroad, who continued to carry their faith in the Manappuram name.
Back in the early 80s, when I had just entered college, our family was going through a financial crunch. My father had to move to Bihar. At this time, my father had some savings which he put as a deposit in Manappuram Financial Trust. And I remember Manappuram paid an annual interest of 18%, and every month a check of rupees 750 would come to us with clockwork regularity. It was a great help to us in those days.
Over decades, the Manappuram name had come to acquire a wealth of goodwill among people of the area. That goodwill was its hidden reserves. It became the rock-solid base on which was founded the spectacular performance that followed in later years.
When his son Sri V.P. Nandakumar took over the business, it was on this foundation of trust that Mr. Nandakumar successfully built the present corporate entity.
V.P. Nandakumar came to Manappuram with the experience and exposure of a bank officer. Unlike his father, he was keen to expand and grow the business. And it was nothing but the credibility of the Manappuram name that came to his help. The cap on deposits was given up, and depositors rushed in with their savings. V.P. Nandakumar then promoted Manappuram Finance Limited in 1992, and in 1995 he had its shares listed on the prestigious Bombay Stock Exchange. The public issue was successful and eventually oversubscribed, largely because people from these parts invested unhesitatingly. For them, the name Manappuram itself was adequate due diligence.
Even for the public issue, the major support was from this coastal area. It was oversubscribed around 2 times, but around 1 time has come from this place alone. It is because of the credibility. So the major success can be attributed, especially in the initial years, the credibility my father has earned.
The insistence on fair dealing was not restricted to his customers alone. It was also reflected in a heightened civic sense, uncommon for those days and times. Because integrity essentially is a way of life.
He was very transparent and law-abiding in doing business. He never violated any rules of the land, and very honest in making tax payment also, whatever is due. So he was very honest. Perhaps, as I understand, he was those days in 60s and early 70s. He was the only person from this coastal area who was an income tax assessee. This shows his transparency and honestness to every stakeholder.
Beyond his career and profession, in his personal life, V.C. Padmanabhan was a warm, caring family man.
He instilled in us values of hard work, integrity, humility, and responsibility. He was our safety, guidance, and role model. He was a principle-based person, responsible, caring, strict in his guidelines, and yet very understanding.
At the same time, he was very strict and perfect in the financial dealings, and he never allowed to waste money. Normally, he never get angry to others, including family members. I was not lucky to have his presence more than 8 years as a
Late Mr. V.C. Padmanabhan was very simple and honest. with great integrity and with an attitude to help others. He was giving more importance for education and was giving assistance for many who were in need.
And in his own humble way, he was also something of a philanthropist.
He was, of course, a supporter of higher education. I don't want to name anybody, but I understand even doctors, dental surgeons and engineers who were financed by him, of course, unknowingly, that I should say. And he did not want to have any name or fame for that activity.
My personal experience about him is that he is the only person for my professional achievement. With these words, I bow my head in front of him and his family.